Well, let me say, first of all, a thank you to Filippo and to Henrietta, to all the NGOs here today, to Yasmin of Education Cannot Wait, because you have done more in a few short months, facing the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War. You have done more to advance the cause of refugee education in a few short months than has been achieved in decades of conflict and struggle. Congratulations on the advances that you are making. And let me also say that what you are saying today is that our promise of the Sustainable Development Goal that we will provide educational opportunity for all by 2030 will remain hollow and will remain an unrealized promise unless we devote our energies, and more of them, to securing an education for every refugee child, for every displaced child, and for every child in a zone of conflict at the moment. And that must be our aim. And I want to thank Amelie. She showed courage in adversity. She showed personal resolution when in fact there was political irresolution. She turned adversity into opportunity. And having done so, she is not only benefiting herself, she is now campaigning on behalf of the millions of other refugee young people who need, deserve, and must have the same opportunities as Amelie. Thank you for what you are doing to campaign. Now, Amelie moved from Rwanda to Malawi and then to Canada. Let me tell you a story that is seared on my memory. If you go to the Rwanda Children's Museum, you will see the pictures of some children who were victims of the genocide in the 1990s. And you will see one picture of a young boy called David. And there will be a picture and only a few facts, but the facts tell us everything. David, age 12, ambition to be a doctor, favorite subject in education, reading, favorite sport, football, favorite hobby, making people laugh. And then it says, death by mutilation. Last words, the United Nations are coming to save us. And we never did. And in his innocence and his idealism, that young man believed that the world community would honor its promises and come to help refugees and displaced people at a time of difficulty. And we must never let children like that young guy, David, down ever again. And you know, there are 80 million children, as we've heard, caught up in zones of conflict. There are 30 million displaced children around the world today. Of the 4 million refugees who are not in education and have no chance of education, only 1% will ever have the chance of doing what Amelie did and going on to education in higher universities or colleges. And I've been working this summer and looking at some of the refugee camps. Moria in Lesbos in Greece. More than 1,000 children, none of them in formal education. Some in informal education, but the funding about to be cut off. The story from the care workers in that camp that 2 young children of 12 attempted suicide. And you know that hope dies when a rescue craft is lost at sea. Hope dies when a convoy can't get through with food. But hope also dies when a young child, a young person, does not have hope and is unable to plan and prepare for the future. And it's up to us to keep hope alive. So I say, let us bridge this gap between humanitarian aid and development aid, as Ulla will talk about later, and she is doing a fantastic job in Denmark in doing so. Let us fund humanitarian aid in education properly by doubling it immediately. Let us ensure that Education Cannot Wait has the funds to coordinate provision in all the conflict areas of the world. Let us turn to the cause of the Palestinian refugees and let us tell the American government they should be doing more, not less, to help the 500,000 Palestinian refugees who are without education. Let us mainstream provision for refugees so that every refugee child has exactly the same rights in the countries they're in as every other child in that country, the right and the opportunity to a decent education. Let us mean what we say when we say we are going to be the first generation in history where every child is at school, let us ensure that that means every refugee child, every displaced child, every child in a conflict zone. This is the challenge of our generation facing this huge refugee crisis, and we can win it, all of us, by acting together. Thank you.